Many spend their days passively searching for something interesting to do. Others dig in and find it. While nothing is certain, anything is possible. And the anticipation leads you into action. Because it's here that adventures begin. Stories are unearthed. Secrets are revealed. Fortunes are found. Mysteries are solved. And the past is brought to life. Nothing valued is ever lost. It's simply waiting to be discovered. So here's the question. What are you looking for?
Finished, Luke. I haven't finished. What are you doing to me? I've finished. Right, where am I? Here I am. Good evening, Adrian. How are you?
All good, Dave. You all right?
I am now. I couldn't find the link to the thingy, so I've got there. I'm all right. We're there. Do I look orange?
No.
I think I've caught the sun because I look a bit of a peculiar.
Oh, you do when you go like that with your hands. Oh, in front of you. Just like that. That's it. You go grey, okay, and then you get a bit red. You have caught the sun. High blood pressure.
It's not. Well, I have, but I'm on tablets for that. That's another story. Anyway, good evening to everybody in the chat room. We are looking forward to an absolutely stunning episode of the Big Detecting Show tonight. We're going to do some parish notices first and foremost to get them out of the way so we can concentrate on tonight's guests. First up, this month's Treasure Hunting magazine is now available in all good stockists. Very good read it is too. Secondly, I haven't got a clue. Next week, it's Spring Detectable. Oh. It crept up on me and I forgot it was next week. And I'm like, it's next week. And I only realised because Mr. Higgins phoned me up and went, Dave, man, where's the editorial? He didn't say man because he doesn't say that. So next week's Detectable, you will actually be getting a free copy of the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine in paper form. You'll get one, Adrian.
Oh, will I? For free, Dave?
For free. And that goes to everybody who's there. And whatever we have left over at the end, some are going to be taken down to the Peaky Finders Rallies group and handed out there, and the Metal Detectives group. And other ones will be coming to myself. If you would like a copy of that, I will have them. You will have to sadly send me a couple of quid or however much it costs for postage and packaging, because I can't afford. I'm poor at the moment. Hopefully I won't be poor for much longer, because I might be going on 4 off. Also, I'm pretty sure this weekend, for those of you who've been wondering all about Just Detect, I'm pretty sure this weekend Just Detect will be going live. Don't quote me 100%, but I'm pretty sure before Detectable, because they want to do some work with Detectable, Just Detect will be going live. And you'll find out more via the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine and all our social media things. Anyway, Adrian, shall we crack on?
Yeah, let's crack on. Very exciting show tonight. I'm looking forward to it, Dave.
I've been for over a year. I've been looking forward to this show. When it was originally about to be released, the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar TV show, I was in communication with tonight's guest, Colin Hamilton, and they said they'd come on the show. Obviously, the world has gone into peculiarity, and we just got round to getting sorted, and we're all good, and everybody's home from travelling. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you tonight's guests, Carl Cookson and Hamilton White from the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Dave. I just want to say thank you. We remember that review you did for us, and it was brilliant. It was, we'd never done any TV before, and to get a complete stranger being so nice and gracious and complimentary, it meant a lot to us. It gave us a bit of confidence, I think, because we just didn't know what the sort of impact the show would have, and you really bounced it right back in the most positive manner. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. I mean, I can't speak personally highly enough of the series. And for those of you who've not watched the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, I've got a couple of videos lined up throughout the show, a couple of clips from YouTube that will include. But go away, find it on the History channel. I'm sure it'll be on History Repeat somewhere, and watch the series. And if you haven't, you'll learn all about it tonight. So, who should we speak to? Hamilton, let's introduce yourself first and foremost, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. Well, I appear to be Hamilton, who is the understudy to Carl, who is Mr. TV and Mr. Internet. And I don't know what I do, really. I sort of hang around and pass some witty comments every now and again, really. That's my role in life. Over to you, Carl.
Much the same as me and Adrian, really.
Yes, yeah, with a bit of drink.
Oh, lots of
tonight. Well, I'll be honest with you. I've got mojito mocktail tonight.
Oh,
being a special occasion.
Cup of tea.
Water.
Hamilton's on water. God, we're all getting old. Carl, tell us about yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've seen the show, you know what I do. Hamilton's the maestro in terms of all the technicalities and the history. And I tend to just go by my gut. I don't do a lot of research. I mean, I do research by default, really, but I don't sort of research stuff. I just go with my feeling, my gut feeling, and we go on location. And it's a learning journey for me. I come back enriched and nourished with it because I'm just picking up so much knowledge, and I've got a good wingman with Hamilton because I can ask him and very quickly shake down all the cobwebs of reality and fantasy. So I don't know what I am, but we seem to work together okay.
You're also the driver of extremely sexy motor vehicles as well.
Oh. Yeah, I'm a big petrol head. I've loved cars since I was a kid, and more importantly motorbikes, because my dad had a motorbike for work. He used to have he had loads. You could buy a motorbike then for £5. In fact, he bought one for £6 with a sidecar, and he brought it home on the back of a truck with my cousin. And when he was having his tea before he took it off the truck, I creeped inside the sidecar and waited for them to carry the bike off the truck, and he was screaming with the weight of it and all that. And then I popped my head in, and my dad said, "You little bugger, what are you doing?" And he turned that bike into a fantastic, proper bike without a sidecar. And that was my big turn on then. And ever since then, I've always had bikes, you know, but cars have obviously.
Whilst we're talking cars, Carl, on one of the episodes, I saw a GT40, Ford GT40. Is that an original one you've got?
It's it's not mine. That's my brother's car. There's the Ford company, as you know, raced Ford GTs or GT40s, as they were called in the late 60s and 70s, and done fantastic. Actually smashing Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari was gutted about that, and that was the mission, because Ford had set out to buy Ferrari and he couldn't agree terms, so it ended in acrimony, and Ford, the board of Ford decided, right, what we're going to do, we're going to go to Le Mans and beat Ferrari, and they did. So the car you saw in the clip, or the brief glimpse of it, is what they call a Ford GT. A Ford GT is a recreation by Ford Motor Company in the early 2000s. They brought edition out of it, very limited edition, and the most exotic incarnation of the limited edition was called a Heritage Edition, which is that car that my brother's got. It's painted in Gulf colours. It does actually have another one, as you would, which is in Ford colours, which is blue and white, but they're an amazing motor car.
Yes, I apologise. I'm a bit of a petrol head myself. I could talk all night about cars, but we mustn't. We're here to talk about you two's amazing journey. There's loads of questions people are putting in the chat. But first of all, how did you both meet?
Hamilton answered that, I think.
Oh, crikey. Am I back? Hello.
Sorry.
Oh, you know, this is kind of like filming, where I sort of think, oh, wouldn't it be great to talk about like objects and history? And it's like, oh, can we talk about cars? And can you and Carl drive around in the Ferrari or something? That'd be great. I'm the very boring one that keeps going on and on about old stuff, you know. So what was the question? Where did we meet?
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly, I believe it was in a public house, strangely enough, somewhere in Monaco, when we were both living down there, which is God knows how many years ago now. And for some inexplicable reason, we actually got on really well. I can't imagine why, because we got nothing in common, but we just hit it off. You know, and then, you know, we still seem to be attached to each other, and despite our best efforts, we're still doing stuff. And I don't know why we ended up on TV. Don't ask me how, but it works. You know, so far so good.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the question: how did you end up on TV,
Carl?
Well, it's dark. Thing, you know. Probably because what first piqued both of our interests was the house that I bought in a place called Auberterre-Cedron in the Poitou-Charentes in 205. And when Hamilton found out, he wants to come and have a look at it. And I didn't know a lot about the Templars, but obviously once I bought the place, I started looking into it more. And then that kind of was the catalyst that really got us focused on this whole world. And then the collection started to come together that Hamilton found. And then I think we needed to, you know, the thing with the collection, you can't just keep a collection like that for yourself. It's got to be, something has to happen with it. So we had chats about it, and I had three sort of points that I felt had to be brought into the whole frame of what we're going to do. And point one was, first of all, you know, we have to keep the collection together, because Hamilton's a dealer, really. So, you know, what was he going to sell it or wasn't he? But if ever there was a time when the collection was going to be sold, we both agreed that it would have to stay together as one conglomerate, because it shouldn't be separated now. So we kind of we totally agreed on that first tenant. The second tenant was that you couldn't just sell it to anybody. If ever it was going to be sold, we'd really really have to feel comfortable and know that the next custodian is going to be the rightful custodian, or somebody that's going to protect it and look after it and covet it in the way we do. But more importantly, which leads to the third tenet, is going to allow that collection to be seen by the wider public or the greater public. And ultimately that, that involves touring it or putting it in a permanent public exhibition space. And we both felt that those three things were natural for this collection, and something that we agreed that would be our credo with the collection. From my point of view, the longer we held on to it, the better, because I love it. I never want it to be outside of my life, and to have that access to actually be able to touch it and, feel it and see it and breathe on it and smell it, and just the whole thing with it. You don't get them chances in life. And for me, I firstly want to make sure we never sell it if that's possible, and so that we can always enjoy it closely. But I would love if we get to the position where we can create some sort of static or touring exhibition so people can come and enjoy it like we do, although everyone won't be able to touch it.
So how did the programs come about then, Carl? Who found out about the hoard itself?
Yeah, we had an approach by the BBC and Reuters. So we decided to hold a private little expo in one of my commercial properties. Me and my brother actually own a commercial property portfolio, and one of the buildings is a fantastic, iconic courthouse, a Crown Court in Knutsford. It's the Crown Court that Alan Turing was tried in, and it's a very famous court, and it's designed by a guy named George Moneypenny, ironically, who got tried himself there years later. I don't think he planned in the architecture for any escape routes, but there's a spine that runs under the courthouse with two staircases going into court 1, court 2, and it brings you right into the dock. So the prisoners were taken from the cells up into the dock, tried, and in many cases took back down to the cells and immediately took to the courtyard for capital punishment. And we just thought the building was sympathetic and reverential to the importance of the collection, so we felt it was a good place to hold a little expo. So we invited a few people, and Reuters were great, and the BBC were great. We had a good chat with them, but after that we thought, what are we going to do? And then Hamilton realised he had an old school chum named Patrick, and I let Hamilton really take it from there, because that was where you came in with it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the only person really that I've stayed in touch with from my school days was actually at the time working for an entertainment and film company, and I'd not really talked to him about what I was up to. He came up to it and just sort of said, think our company needs to have a look at this, it's really good. Which was great, because he took the initiative rather than us trying to sort of foist it upon people. And then the next thing we know, we're summoned down to a meeting at their rather flash offices in central London. We met somebody who was over from America who waved her arms about and enthused greatly. And the sort of the company that we ended up working for, Fired Up of Belfast, they were there, we had a chat, and the next thing we know, it's like, oh, right, guys, you're going to go and make a program about this. Okay, fair enough. And it really was as vague as that. There was no kind of planning, and until we actually showed up almost on the first day of filming, we didn't actually know what the program was going to be, and I don't think they did either. It just morphed into whatever the first series was, really, and we're on it from there. We're almost finished series 2.
Yeah, it was a funny thing, because what they did, they said, we're going to send a small crew up to see you to do a sizzle. I mean, Hamilton looked at each other.
You know what it was?
What's a sizzle when it's out, you know? And a sizzle basically is a taster version of what a show could be like. So it was a like 5 minutes sort of, you know, condensed version of what the directors and the producers had in mind of what we were going to be. And at that point, we didn't have a clue what direction the show was going to be or how we were going to be projected. And up until they said that, you know, I was all excited about it. And then the second it dawned on me that they were coming up tomorrow night to meet us in a local pub, and the next day we were going to be filming, I was horrified because I thought, I'm just going to freeze when the camera's on me. You know, I've just never done that thing before. And he come down to, this was in Knutsford, he filmed it, the first part, and he come to my unit, my warehouse where I keep some of my stuff. And I was like a rabbit in the headlights, you know, with the cameras on. And I really thought, this is not going anywhere. And then we went down to Hamilton's, and I remember being outside Hamilton's office while the crew were in, because it's only a tiny little space. And I was listening to Hamilton and thought, bloody hell, he's a polished, you know, smooth presenter. I thought, how am I going to compete with that? So I thought, well, there's the end of my show. It's going to be the Hamilton show. Because he really was, you know, very polished and convincing in a natural way. And then they go away then, you know, and you don't see the footage. And the next thing, we got invited down to another swanky office. And when we wasn't told really what it was about, but when we got there, I can't tell you the broadcaster, but we was doing a pitch to a big American broadcaster. So I just thought, well, it's going to be like when we done the first pitch with at Patrick's Place in London. But then the next thing he said, and here's the sizzle. So my heart was like, poof. And as soon as it come on, you know, again, I thought Hamilton comes across great. And then it come on to me and I thought, bloody hell. What a disappointment, you know.
It was fine.
I mean, I love Liverpool. I'm from Liverpool, but when you listen to yourself on the telly or, you know, recording, it's just not how you visualise yourself.
I totally get and appreciate that. Even when I've been forced to watch back episodes, I'm like, God, listen to me. I'm over the water and Ellesmere Port is where I'm from. So, we're more or less the same.
I think you both come across really well, to be honest, on here tonight, and also on the show, on the TV series. I thought you came across you're natural, and I think because you've got a passion for what you found, you sort of naturally enjoy talking about it. And I think it's when you're talking about something you're not passionate about, people don't come across. But I mean, just going back to the beginning, both of you, obviously you funded this yourself, didn't you? The search.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we did give others the opportunity to chip in, but we kind of got a
really?
It's all right, guys. You can sort it.
Well, it's not really a credible pitch, isn't it? Is it when you turn around and say, how do you fancy funding the greatest find of the Knights Templar ever?
Doesn't work.
Sure, yeah. And you've got the Ark of the Covenant just around the corner. I mean, everybody's pitching for that, you know, and it's for Hamilton, it's his business and it's his meat and drink. And, you know, I kind of, I'm as astounded as everybody when I see the stuff he's got, because it is remarkable. It's an extraordinary find. And I'm as bowled over. I still can't believe it. I think it's staggering. It's not really picked up by the mainstream media because we've kind of gone on history and discovery, and for some reason, you know, it's not as classically academic as.
I think Ancient Aliens have caused that issue.
Yeah, maybe they have. Or the
not helped it, has it?
I think we need to stress as well. You mentioned the Holy Grail. In no way, shape, or form is the collection of relics that you've got related to the Holy Grail in any way, shape, or form. It's never been mentioned. It's never been thought about. This is predominantly relics of the Knights Templar, as it says in the title. And that leads me on to speak. It's called am I right in the pronunciation? The Tomar Hoard.
Tomar.
Close enough.
Tomar Hoard. Close. Yep. Tomar Hoard, which again, if I'm right in saying, is a place in Portugal, which was a Knights Templar stronghold. And these relics were originally discovered by general people trying to find treasure way back in the 1960s, which leads us on to the mall splitting up all over the place and yourselves working very, very hard to rediscover the collection in total, and even if it's in full yet or not.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the very, very brief story of it is in 1960, some guys were actually looking for the Roman graveyard in Tomar, because prior to being Templar and everything else, Tomar was one of the frontier Roman cities in Portugal. And the tradition was, as I'm sure you know, Romans buried their dead with jewelry, with valuables. And it was 1960, rules were different then. People were looking for the Roman cemetery, trying to find, obviously, gold. Totally by accident, they dropped on this because they were actually searching the wrong area, looking for the Roman cemetery. And then the stuff was pretty much disregarded because it wasn't perceived as being valuable. It wasn't gold, it wasn't silver, really, other than the bits of gold that were levered out of some of the chalices. And it was disregarded, and then it was dissipated over the next sort of, we think, 5-8 years. Some of it went to Switzerland, some of it went all over the place. And years later, when some proper archaeologists got into Tomar and started doing some research, they actually found the Roman graveyard, but it was on the south bank of the river, not on the north bank of the river where these guys were looking, which, if I'd been looking for the graveyard, I'd have been looking on the north bank as well. But for whatever reason, it was in a different part of town. That's the simple explanation, anyway.
How many?
Sorry, Adrian. You first, Adrian.
Sorry, thank you, Dave. Are you allowed to sort of say how many in total artifacts have been found, or because on the show there's only 5?
Yeah, I mean, on the first series, I think there were 5 or 6 pieces actually shown. As part of the hoard that was found in 2 parts in 1960, we think there were about sort of 35 pieces altogether in the main body of the hoard, which is the main pieces, the chalices, the agates, and the big money, heavy duty stuff. But in total, there's now more than 100 pieces come to light.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot more than you actually think, and a lot more than we actually brought onto the screen or is in the little booklet that I think you guys have seen, which is the outline of it. It's a much bigger and much more significant thing than we've really put out at the moment.
But it's better than that, because within those 100 pieces, there's things that weren't actually in the hoard, but are corroborative evidence of the worship of the chalice, and the whole idea that the Templars use these vessels. We've got some fantastic pieces that, when we show them, are going to make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And the items themselves, you've got provenance for a lot of them as well, to show that history is behind them and it is connected to the area that you say it's connected to.
Yeah, as far as it's possible to go. I mean, bear in mind, this stuff was found 60 years ago. We've taken it as far as we can go with it, hence why it took nearly 10 years of background digging and cleaning it all up, and the sort of what you have to do behind the scenes before you can go public with it, really. I mean, it's been a massive task. It wasn't a sort of simple thing like metal detecting and finding a hoard of coins that you hand over. This is a totally different league altogether of operating.
Mm. And the piece most identifiable with this show is that the obsidian chalice. which I've read again. I've gone back to the document you spoke about moments ago. I've gone back to that document and read it through again today, and the obsidian chalice, all about that and how it was actually worked in that time. It's incomparable, really, isn't it?
Oh, it's a fabulous piece, yeah.
So, and as I say about the person who's actually worked on it, obsidian. Am I right in saying it's basically volcanic glass? And therefore, working it, you'd have to be someone special to actually make that piece.
Yeah, I think Jonty said when he examined it, there was it 7,000 hours or 4,000? I can't quite remember now, but it was over 4,000 hours of work. I think it was like 2 or 3 years constant work of tapping to break it down to get the shape. And it's that old Michelangelo thing, isn't it? You know, you just finish it and do the final chip and the arm falls off. And because it's such, and also because it's been a very exotic material in Europe. You know, it came, we believe the obsidian was sourced from Armenia. And that, you know, that was on the famous trade route going all across to Asia. So that when obsidian came to Europe, it was probably more prevalent in places like Alexandria and Constantinople, but in, you know, Western Europe, for anybody to see that material, it would have been so special. And I think the Templars knew that and realised the importance of getting that chalice made out of something that was, you know, beyond spectacular, which it is.
I mean, there isn't only one obsidian, there are several. I mean, we haven't let out all of the information on all of the chalices yet, but the next thing that'll come out is the explanation of why we think they commissioned them in obsidian. Because it, you know, research is going on all of the time and things have cropped up and we think we've now pinpointed, well, that's why they use obsidian. That's probably the next thing that's going to come out from us. But yeah, I mean, they're spectacular pieces. They're very tactile. Unlike a lot of things, you know, you can pick things up and put them down and that's it, on to the next one. The few people that have handled this stuff, when you put it in their hands, nobody wants to let it go. It's really odd, isn't it, Carl? I mean, it's just sort of I don't know how to describe it.
And we're the same, aren't we? I mean, you pick them up and it's such you're glued to them, you know, they just want to be, you want to be part of them. I don't know, maybe they want to be part of you as well, but there is something absolutely fantastic about holding them.
So in one season, you've actually broke 27 seasons of the Curse of Oak Island. Fantastic. Us English are the best.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just reading the comments that are popping up. Nobody's talking about our show. Everybody's just talking about Oak Island. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, really. You know? Yeah.
I think they're saying how terrible it is in comparison.
Does it worry you touching the artifacts? Because obviously we were saying earlier about, you know, that one being created in one chip. Some things are precious when you hold them. It must be a worry.
I'll tell you what's more precious than that is having the chance to do that before they get put in a place where we'll never get that chance ever again. And put it this way, when we pick a chalice up, we ain't going to drop it. You know, we're never going to drop it. And it's like when we
don't let me hold it, for God's sake.
Well, you know, like when we hold the sword on the show and that. I mean, the amount of emails we got about people saying, that's disgusting, that they should have been wearing white gloves and, you know, the acid off the skin on the blades. I mean,
nonsense.
The blades are, you know, 1,000 years old. Touching them with your hands not going to do them any harm whatsoever. And for the actual uplift of what it does for us, we're touching them.
Yeah.
Make no
mistake. Am I right that one of the chalices sometimes sort of extrudes an oily liquid at certain times?
Well, it wasn't one of the chalices. There's a little, I suppose you'd refer to it as a skiphos-shaped vessel, which is actually agate inlaid in gold. It's a Byzantium piece. It predates the Templars, but it sort of matches some vessels that were taken from Constantinople in 1204 at the time of the, I think it was the third or the fourth Crusade. And we've correlated against some in Venice and some in France. But yeah, I mean, there's been some funny reaction where the stone has actually sort of, I don't know what you call it, leaked or secreted some weird, sickly, sweet something or other that's come out of it. I mean, it's stopped now, but for about a year, you'd go back to it, open up the box, and there'd be a little puddle of this, like, I don't know what you call it, almost like liquefied honey type stuff in the bottom of it. Really odd.
Because we don't know what they took or did in those ceremonies, do we? Or drunk?
No idea at all. No, not a clue.
You said it was sweet. Did you taste it?
No, you momentarily think, should I? Then you just think,
like them in the sarcophagi that they opened in Egypt. Yeah, let's have
it was full of liquid. You know, in principle, it sounds like a brilliant idea, but when you're actually faced with it and you dip your finger in it and you just think,
I'll tell you
what, maybe not.
I'll tell you what we have thought about doing many a times is having a glass of wine out the black obsidian.
Yeah, but we haven't yet.
And guess what? We are going to do that.
That'll have to be a very special bottle of wine.
Yeah, well, I've got 7 bottles. I've done a deal with Hamilton.
Don't. That
wasn't a good buy. I bought this. I went down the village one night to the bar, the Hotel de France, and I'd had a few scoops, and I ended up buying a Citroen 2CV off this bloke, and it was a very early one with the suicide doors, and it looked great in grey with this ribbed bonnet. And I said, I'll pick it up tomorrow. So in the morning, the afternoon, I went down, give him the cash, and I got in the car, and my house was at the top of the village. And the thing could hardly get up the hill, so I parked it in the back of my property. And that was the last time I'd used it. And then when Hamilton came, he said, oh, that's nice. I said, oh, do you want a deal for it? He said, yeah, lad, what's it worth? I said, well, it's probably a couple of grand. He goes, would you swap 8 bottles of wine for it? I said, yeah. He says, actually, I'm only going to give you 7. I said, you'll have to be good bottles of wine. So he had 7 bottles of Chateau Mouton Rothschild. And
mistake.
Yeah, it was a good deal for me.
Brilliant deal that was.
I've still got them, and I checked. I think 1 bottle today is worth about 900 quid. Now, the problem I've got, my mate up the road used to work for an auction house, and he started dealing in wine. And all of a sudden, these massive collections had come in with fantastic wines. And I said, where have they come from? He said, 90% of them are from deceased estates. So once I'd heard that, I thought, I'm not going to be the man that keeps wine for other people to drink when So I've just got to decide when the right time is to fill one of these chalices up with the 900 quid wine and taste it. It might taste rubbish, but we're going to do it.
And I never got the Citroen. The last time I heard it had been dragged off to some French scrapyard, and I've never seen it since.
Luke, I've got a short video lined up of the show just to, for those who haven't watched it, just to give them a brief overview. So if you could run VT, young man.
They've unearthed a hoard of priceless Templar treasure.
The most significant find since Tutankhamun.
With the help of Dan Jones, they're on a journey to prove they have the greatest find in history.
It's going to change the way people think about the Templars.
Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, Wednesdays at 10 on History.
So that's just a brief overview of the show. We mentioned the obsidian chalice. There's also the libation cup. I've wrote them down so I don't forget. The reliquary box, the sword as we've just seen, and one of my personal favourites, one of my favourite episodes, helm, which what a fantastic backstory and history the helm's got.
Fabulous. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things. It came to me through somebody I've known for a very, very long time. It had been in their family collection since the 60s. Hadn't recognised what it was. It was covered in concrete. It was really almost like a giant lump of concrete dustbin, although you could just about see the shape of a helm out of it. And one of those lucky things, when I started smacking at it to get the concrete off, underneath it was a 13th century helmet. And I ended up sending it to, sorry, I've just been distracted. I was just reading the comments. What does that say? Whose palette is going to be able to tell the difference between 900 quid and 9 quid? Okay, sorry, I get easily distracted. Well, probably not mine either. No. Yeah, obviously some Blossom Hill there for, I think 3 quid you can have on that one. But no, I mean, the whole...
Now, come on.
Sorry.
I go to Aldi and buy some fantastic wines for a £5.
Right, brilliant. Well, next time I come to your house, you'll be delighted with a bottle of Blossom Hill then, won't you? I even get you something decent.
Well, next time you go to his house, seeing I'm on the way, I'll come too.
Oh, yeah. You go to Hamilton's, though, you're likely to get bacon-infused vodka or roast chicken dinner-infused vodka.
Or I make my own spirits.
You haven't done
they sound perfect to me. There's bacon and vodka in the same breath is
roast
perfect.
dinner infused vodka.
Yeah. A few years ago, I had this inspired idea to make all the vodka flavors that nobody else was doing. So I had to put a lot of research into it, and I did chicken, kebab, madras curry, Christmas tree. I did about 15 or so different flavors of all weird stuff, and they've gone down really well. I mean, I know people laugh at them, but they're cracking. They're really good.
Yeah, it sounds good. I like the kebab one. That sounds very nice.
I could see us at Detectable living on kebab vodka, no problem.
Well, here we go. Look, there's a comment there. Somebody called Lisa Mallam. It says bacon vodka. We did bacon vodka. It was fantastic. That was the most popular flavour out of all of it. Yeah, you're a very wise person. Oh, your name's gone again, Lisa. Whoever
Lisa Mallam.
Very wise. Well done. Yeah,
one of my detecting buddies.
Is it?
That's another show, Dave, in itself.
Diverting back onto the boring topic of history, which I do periodically. Yeah, I mean the great helm we then transpired came from Heinrich Himmler's collection, and it was at Wavelsburg at his own castle. We actually found a photograph of it in the armory room in his private quarters in the sort of North Tower. Yeah, same piece. Absolutely fantastic. Wonderful piece.
Is it right the Germans, the Nazis, had SS officers to look for the artifacts you discovered?
That was with Heinrich Himmler wrote a letter to a guy named Otto Rahn, who had already published a book on the Grail, and the search for it. And when he invited him up to Berlin, Otto Rahn didn't actually know exactly who he was going to meet, but when he got there, it was Heinrich Himmler who met him. And he basically commissioned him to search for the Holy Grail and enrolled him as an officer in the SS to do so, and funded him to go all around the world to find this, because the SS or the Arbeiter believed that if they found the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant, they would have complete mastery and power over the world. And that was something that obviously they never found. And we did hear that they'd been very close to where the Tomar hoard was actually buried, but sadly they never found it.
Luckily, they never found it.
Luckily for us, yeah.
Luckily they didn't find it.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yes, exactly.
I apologise.
Did you come across, because the whole journey of finding all this stuff is just, for me, it's like a schoolboy and an adult's dream. But you must have had some really close calls, strange people. Did you have any things that were scary along the way?
I know Hamilton had an interesting hangover after he acquired the Black Obsidian Chalice, because I think he was drinking till 5 a.m. to do a deal on that, wasn't he?
Oh, that was when I went out to the larger of the obsidian chalices when I went out to Switzerland when I tracked it down. That took quite a drinking bonanza with the guy who'd got it before we could actually sit and have a discussion about how much I was going to be relieved of for it. But yeah, I mean, it's strange, bearing in mind I make a living doing this. You know, in a lot of cases, some of the pieces have actually come to me rather than me looking for them, which, I mean, I know that sounds rather peculiar, but in some cases it's been so easy, it's been unnaturally easy.
I take it the buying and selling of relics in the world, it's a very small community in the first place, smaller than we'd probably imagine. So you all know each other, the main dealers in such antiquities. So somebody gets wind and they'll come to you straight away.
I think that's a bit oversimplifying it. I mean, it's a bit like the car trade. Everybody knows each other, but you don't necessarily know what you're up to or who your customers are. And periodically you all end up in the same place because there's an event, a bit like Detectival, you know, you all end up in the same place, but nobody wants to tell each other what you're actually doing or where your permissions are or what you're up to, because you don't want people taking your business. I mean, it is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah. Luke, if you could share the screen, I just want to bring the collection from the first season onto the screen, if possible. Excuse me. So we have got this is the helm that we spoke about.
Oh wow!
And it's something else.
How
Absolutely
heavy is it?
Stunning.
Oh, it's really heavy. I mean, and bear in mind he worn like a woolen cap, some sort of cap underneath to, you know, give you some sort of isolation between it. But I mean, could you imagine how difficult it would have been to wear that going into battle, especially if you was in the Middle East with the heat and weight of it? I mean, it's the antithesis now of what modern armor is. You know, we're lighter, thinner, you know, greater peripheral vision. I mean, that really is a scary prospect for the wearer, rather not just for the enemy. I mean, it looks frightening if you're the enemy.
It does. It does.
Really
The thing in the medallion in the middle of the head, is that symbology and writing been explained?
On an Airbus symbol.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what it is, it's a slightly oval copper plate that's obviously been put onto the helmet when it's come into the possession of Himmler. And although you can't actually see it there, it is actually the crest of the Ahnenerbe, which was an office within the SS itself.
Right.
There was a sort of separate sub-department that was Himmler's own personal staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Himmler was trying to create, and was instrumental in to try and create a new religion for the Third Reich and ultimately the whole world, to replace the Roman Catholic Church. So he was looking into paganism and Celtic folklore as part of the influence, and obviously at the same time trying to find facts to fit the narrative. Which he never actually found, you know, but that was the purpose of it, because Wevelberg was going to be the centre. That was going to be the new Holy Empire of the Third Reich.
Yeah, I mean, Himmler had his own vision of what the Third Reich and the new religion and Aryan supremacy was, and he was just simply trying to create something and utilize whatever historical facts he possibly could to justify his own beliefs.
Yeah. This is the black obsidian chalice, sorry. And again, it's stunning. I take it it's got some wear and tear and some breakages that have they been repaired, or is it just on the verge of?
Well, what actually happened that we didn't deduce but Jonty did is that when it was found back in 1960, we're pretty convinced that it was actually inlaid with gold. and that the actual break on that you can see in the picture, that was caused by somebody levering it, probably with a screwdriver or a point or something, to actually get the gold out.
Wow.
Because the sort of the fracture on it is exactly what you would get if you were using brute force to get the gold out.
Yeah.
But that's now been properly repaired. I mean, if I showed it to you now, you would really struggle to actually see that there was any repair on it at all. I mean, we're not disguising the fact it has been fixed. We've got the sort of whole restoration program.
Actually, in the catalogue, we show it with
broken,
pre-restored. So no one's trying to say it's not been repaired, but the quality of the repair is world class.
I mean, it's done to what you'd call proper museum standard, and I mean, genuinely, you would need to get the eyeglass out and you would need to know where the break was to actually be able to see it now.
Yeah. The next one, the sword. Obviously reading the documents earlier again, it brought me on. The sword is as basic can be. It's not any finery because the Knights Templar weren't allowed to have ornate things other than a cross. The sword itself, though, again, we'll zoom in just to the handle itself, and all it's got bearing is the cross.
Well, actually, it's not, because if you look below the hilt on the blade, there's two crosses, one on top of it.
Just there, yeah.
And we've said, well, why three crosses? And it repeats itself on both sides of the sword. Some people have said it's symbolic of the Holy Trinity, and some people have said, it's a symbol of a Grand Master, that you would only be allowed to have three cross pates on if you become a Grand Master. So if you just join the order as a lowly foot soldier, you probably have one sword on. If you was a knight on a horse of nobility, you might have two cross pates. But if you had three on, you was the Grand Master. And again, it's only theory. We can't prove that, but a number of people have concurred with that hypothesis. But they're inlaid with a bright metal. Whether we haven't had it analysed to find out whether it's gold, but it certainly looks to be something similar to that, or with some copper in it, like gold is anyway.
Yeah.
But it's in beautiful condition, and the swords, everyone thinks of a Knights Templar sword when you see programs like the Game of Thrones and stuff. They've all got these fancy gilded, over the top shapes. But that was a weapon. That was a utilitarian item designed exactly to do what it could do. It wasn't designed for ceremony, because even like today in the army, you've got dress swords, ceremonial swords. They're symbolic of battle, but they're not. They're not weapons of warfare. But that is a real working warfare artifact that was used to kill people.
What you said about the three crosses, Carl, speaking from a Freemason's perspective, it does make sense. Your one cross, you'd be your initiate. Your two crosses would be your second degree, and your three crosses would be a Master Mason. It makes sense from that perspective. Now, tell us about Hamilton. Tell us about the Libation Club. I'd never actually heard of the word libation until the show.
Well, I mean, it's a physically very large vessel. It's about sort of 14 or so inches tall. You can't really see from the photo, but it's actually white marble. The actual incrustation that's all over it is a mixture of sort of calcification of tree roots and various other things, and whatever were in the minerals of the soil where it was for sort of 400 or 500 years. And it's a mixing vessel. We don't know what was mixed in it, but it's got a very distinct pouring spout, which I don't know if you can see it from there. You can probably only see a little lip on it. It's not a vessel that you can actually drink from, because the lip itself is way too thick to enable you to try and drink. You would just tip it all over your face. but very clearly what it is, it's for mixing some sort of liquids or liquids and herbs or liquids and powders together that is then used as a vessel to decant from, probably into the chalices as part of whatever the ceremony is. But, you know, again, we don't actually know what was used, or we've got no indication of what was mixed together. Was it hallucinogenics? No idea. But I mean, it is a mixing vessel for something.
Well, if you need the inside licking to test that, I've got a very long tongue. I'm sure I could try that for you.
Excellent. We've been looking for you for a long time, Dave.
Yeah. Do you know, tonight, gents, has been the most refined show I think we've done in a long time. We usually end up falling into childish laughter over certain words that crop up. But tonight's been okay up to now.
Yeah.
Do you want us to spoil it for you? I mean, we can do. We're pretty good at it.
It's not about spoiling; it's about joining in. And the final item, as you can see there, is the reliquary box.
Reliquary, yeah.
Is that the box that, Hamilton, you initially took? What started the adventure?
Yeah, that was the very, very first thing that came to me before I knew anything about the rest of the stuff or what was going on or what was going to happen. That was item number one that came to me. And that was the thing that got me on an aeroplane to go to Portugal on a complete and utter whim. And it's still ongoing. I mean, it's a weird adventure, but it was just one of those things that transpired. And I look at it now and it's still the most fantastic piece of medieval art. It really is. I mean, it's just a wonderful object.
It's beautiful. How big is that around?
I'm just trying to think. I don't know.
It's probably about 14 inches by 6 or 7 inches by 8. And it's base metal,
right,
which is unusual because for the level and the quality of the work on it, it's obviously been fashioned by a top artisan of the day. And it's the first question is why would you bother with that level of skill and the cost of doing it onto base metal when you could have used silver or gold? And we think possibly because, you know, it symbolises this whole idea of Templars being modest and pious and not venerating gold and silver. But then there's the actual symbolism on it. It's really strange, isn't it, Hamilton?
It's very odd. I mean, you've got several images of St. George, but he's depicted as an elderly man, almost like a Templar with a long hair and scraggy beard, which he never is in medieval art. He's always depicted as a sort of young warrior. And the fact that the depictions of Jesus and Mary are on the back instead of the front, which again is not what you would expect. And you've got Jesus wearing a crown of thorns, but wearing the monk's habit, which again is totally incorrect. I mean, it's just everything about it is wrong. But it's deliberate. Somebody has actually wanted it. They've specified how to make it because the quality is fantastic. I mean, absolutely wonderful quality.
It has. When it was shown on the programme, there's been a repair on it, and there's actually like a screw head in it. And somebody points out saying it's a fake, that, you know, you only have to put a screw on it. But you know, this is the thing with these items, they get passed to different hands, and some people effect a repair on it, which, you know, isn't up to scratch. But we've just shown it as we got it, so we're not trying to say it's, you know, because the lock on it is different, isn't it? We believe.
Well, the lock is period, but probably when the thing was found, the lock was detached. And in 1960, it didn't matter. The thing was of no value, so somebody has put whatever screw to hold the lock back in position. 50, 60 years later, if you were going to repair it, you would do it completely differently. You would put a blind rivet into it. But we just left it. There's nothing to hide. That was how it was fixed. Leave it alone. It doesn't detract from the fact that the item is a sort of 15th century piece of art. So what? Somebody's repaired it. Well, is it better than having the lot left dangling off? It's part of the history of the object.
Yeah, it's true what you're saying though. Like in the 60s, they were worth possibly nothing, and someone used it as a cigarette box. Do you have any knowledge of any that were like on a windowsill in a flat in Hackney and used to store sort of like, I don't know, cigarettes or something, or were they all people?
Yeah, I've got an example. They're in Hamilton's now, and he's got his pens in the chalice and his pencils. And...
yeah. So we keep crisps and peanuts. Yeah, can't be bothered with it. Yeah,
I've got another video lined up, a little bit longer. This one, it's the tour of when you go into the warehouse with all the collection in. So, Luke, if you could roll VT.
The Templar treasure hoard is so valuable, it's impossible to insure. It's kept hidden at a secure location. Now, after years of research, they are ready to make this treasure public for the first time.
We've normally got this area completely blocked in with furniture. It's probably, we think, the most significant find since Tutankhamun.
Let's get it moved.
This is the Knights Templar. There's never been any artifacts ever found in the world, and we've got the lot. Oh, God, you can feel the energy coming out of them, can't you? Put it down here. Careful. Please.
Right, well, that's the John the Baptist one. Do you want to have a look at that one?
That's the libation cup.
Yeah.
I believe this.
Take it. Give it a whirl.
I can't even use words when I see this. It's beautiful.
Bear in mind that's 800 years old. That is a piece of medieval art, you know. That is tasty. Okay. Up. Well, there you go. That was the sword we were talking about.
Yeah, there's two Templar crosses on either side of the blade, isn't there?
Yeah, then you've got another cross on the pommel, so it's threes, the Holy Trinity again.
Yeah. We believe this sword was a Grandmaster's sword.
It's possible. There is a very, very strong likelihood that, yes, it was the Grandmaster who fell at Acre in 1291.
When you pick a weapon up that was actually used in mortal combat, it's going to imbibe incredible energy and power from the events that occurred through this sword and the power that was delivered upon it to a victim. It's incredible to hold a Templar sword. These guys who were using these swords, they were warriors. They had a peaceful mission, but when they had to do the business, this was the chosen weapon that delivered the results.
Okay.
Probably one of my most favourite pieces out the whole collection.
Shine like that.
Yeah, I love that. That was
the very first thing that came.
Commissioned for Henry the Navigator.
More than likely, yeah.
And what was you saying about this, a bit of a heresy?
Well, if you look at medieval art, you've always got St. George slaying the dragon. Well, he's depicted here as a Templar with the long hairs and the scraggly beard, which is wrong. So if you pop it round...
At the back.
Yeah, exactly where it shouldn't be. You've got Jesus and Mary at the back, and you've got Jesus in the crown of thorns.
In a monk's habit.
In a monk's habit. Which is just not right.
Now Carl and Hamilton's challenge is not only to solve the mysteries of individual items in the hoard, but also to unveil the controversial collection to the public.
The mere fact that somebody has found this hoard that everybody has been looking for 800 years is controversial. How have you done it? What have you been up to?
There you go. So you were able to actually see some of the artifacts a lot better than the images that I showed previously. I'm still gobsmacked. A year later, after watching the series, I'm still gobsmacked by it. I still watch it when it pops up on the when I'm flicking through the telly, and oh, there it is. I'll still watch the show because I do believe in what you're doing so much, and I appreciate the fact that you both have acquired the artifacts and are making them readily available via media to us, the public, to see. It's fantastic, and I hope that you are able to at some point show them in a private collection, because I'll be the first person there, I think.
Yeah, I'll be behind you, Dave.
Okay.
I'll get you the canapé plate out straight away.
As long as there's cake. Me and cake.
Great, yeah. We'll get you some fly pies, some Eccles cakes.
No, I mean, it's strange, that this, we both run businesses. We have to earn money to exist, but this has been just something slightly different. It's never been a money-driven thing, this hasn't, which sounds very peculiar, but it's just been something that's been this ongoing. I don't know. It's just like, well, you got to do it. You got so far into it that you can't actually back out of it, isn't it?
It's a privilege. That's the thing, and it's so enjoyable because it doesn't happen. You never imagine something this would happen, and I've loved the whole journey. It's been fantastic, and we keep thinking, have we got everything? But stuff's popping up, and the story's evolving, and since we've the show's been out, other people have added greatly to the history and the knowledge base of what's there, and that's going to keep happening. It's going to refine itself, and it's going to be talked about for a long time.
Oh, the actual research into it will be going on after we're dead and buried. I don't think anybody's ever going to have a sort of a definite answer to some of the questions that are thrown up, because it's impossible. The knowledge has been lost. It's always going to be a sort of a theoretical subject, but you've now got a group of vessels that can actually be physically looked at and studied, whereas previously there was nothing whatsoever existed. Absolutely nothing. It was all theory.
For anybody who does want to follow Carl and Hamilton's travels, they've got a Facebook group. I've just loaded it up because I know there's 2 or 3, but the one that's primarily Carl and Hamilton's is the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar TV series for fans. And there's so much behind the scenes images that you've both put on there of your travels. And I mean, the last one today I've seen is of Carl, the Cross of Charlemagne, marked for the first station of a Spanish pilgrimage to the road to Compostela.
Yes.
You've got pictures of yourselves in some fantastic places and with some fantastic cars as well.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing, you see. I love cars and I like travelling, but to get the petrol paid for and the hotels and the food and drink to go searching in these fantastic places is a dream come true.
I especially enjoyed on your travels the episode where you were climbing to fit into a bit of a cutout in a cave.
Oh, yeah. Up in Montségur. Yeah. Well, I don't do heights. I had a sort of less than satisfactory experience on the walls of Constantinople, which was probably a bit embarrassing, but that's life. But crawling into a hole in the ground and disappearing, no problem at all. Absolutely no problem. You can do that.
I'm with you there. I
mean, if Carl hadn't have given me a hand to get off the walls at Constantinople, I'd still be there now clinging on. I would never have left. Honestly, I wouldn't.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the idea of potholing or caving, to me, I just get so claustrophobic. Heights don't bother me. And Hamilton's the opposite. He was in one of the caves that Otto Rahn actually was searching through. In fact, both caves, the one where I climbed in the Pentagon, there's a photograph of him actually standing inside in the same pose I did. But the other cave we went to, there was a really tiny little gap, and we popped our head in, and there was a cavern inside it. And he decided to
straight him.
Well, that wasn't for me,
Again, I'd have been straight in with you. Unfortunately, my girth is quite ample, and it would not allow. So we'd have to maybe chip away at the hole a little bit before I actually gain entry.
Well, I got about 6 foot into it, and I started thinking like, that seemed like a great idea when I was outside, but you know what? Too many bacon sandwiches and crisps. I don't know what's going to happen here.
Well, I actually, when he was inside, I actually managed to pick a giant boat. Well, I say giant, it was about this piece of rock about 2 or 3 foot, and I started blocking the hole where he was in. The next thing, the camera crew were in stitches, and the co-host, Annika, woman, she didn't know where to look at first. The next thing, I looked at her, and I could see that the mouth breaking into a laugh, and we just laughed our head off. And it was a funny sequence. He never used it in the show. It'd be great if we could do an outtake video, because
the things that didn't make the screen were way better and way more fun that actually were what made it, weren't they?
Do you know, one of the things that I think we've all realised tonight is that Hamilton is absolutely hilarious, and you don't get to see that enough on the show. I could sit and just listen and watch him all night long.
Not allowed to. This is part of it, is that the show was sold to us. It was going to be me and Carl being ourselves, doing our stuff, and we have a great time. It's really good. But then it's like, well, hang on a minute, that's not the show we made, because we hadn't seen it till it came actually out on the TV.
Yeah.
Where's all the great laughs we were having and all the fun? Where's it gone? It's just they've got the choice of how to edit it. But
it's their business, isn't it? Really, we do our stuff, and at the end of the day, I thought what they produced was fantastic, even though we're in it, and I probably sound not very impartial saying that, but it was very entertaining. And
exactly, that's it. They make entertainment. I would like to make a full-on BBC history documentary. That's it's never going to work. Yeah, that's just not going to work for the audience we've got.
No, but you can go on blog lectures for that, for academic lectures.
Nobody will watch it. That's part of the problem.
Look at the numbers, and you'll see nobody watches them. I mean, what was good about it was that it was a great vehicle to introduce many people who weren't interested in history have actually got the hook now because of that show. Actually excited people. Really a bit like, when you're at school and you've got a teacher that one day you come out from school and go, I didn't realise history was great, but what it is, you've got a great teacher that made it interesting and exciting and made it relevant to you. And I think because what we were doing was, we are two lay people effectively, and the fact that we're not academics and we don't talk about items in the same terms or probably the same eloquence an academic would, but we just cut to the chase, and I think a lot of people enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, hit them
out. About being boring. Do you want to see a Templar thing just out of curiosity? Have a look at that.
Oh, definitely. Oh,
there you go. There is a proper 12th, 13th century unglazed terracotta drinking mug, pure Templar, original paint on it. Look at that. What a fantastic
absolutely
bit of
stunning.
Wow.
Look at
beautiful.
Got a crack on it down the side, which I think is just generally an age crack. But there you go. Sorry to bore everybody with my.
I'm just going to interrupt. Luke, can you share the screen for tonight's draw, please? Courtesy of Diggers Dips. First prize 43, between 1 and 43. Adrian, number between 1 and 43.
11, please.
Carl?
15.
Hamilton?
Sorry, what was the question? I wasn't listening.
Pick a number between 1 and 43.
1.
I've gone for 9. Oh, it could be Hamilton. It could be Carl, or it could be Adrian. So tonight's first prize is Britain's First Coins book by Chris Rudd. That's number 15. Who had number 15?
Me.
Carl. Well done. Brad Woolley wins that prize. Second number's up. Again, Carl, first number, please.
7.
Hamilton?
Oh, I'm sticking with number 1.
Adrian?
23, please.
I'll have 32. Do you know, if you write out our initials, Carl, Hamilton, Adrian, Dave, it comes out as Chad. So I should go like that, shouldn't I?
Okay.
Number 3 it's number 30-something. And it's number 33, 1 out. So that's Nick Evans. So you've won cleaning pencil, courtesy of cleaningpencil.com.
Look the hell's a cleaning pencil?
I'll tell you all about that, Hamilton, because you might actually be able to utilise the products in total for your artefacts.
Oh, is that like having a janitor?
No, not really. I forgot to ask. I can't be asked with the last number. Well, I'm not asking that one. Basically, it's number north. It'll be number one now. Watch. It's the cleaning pencil is used on products. On artifacts where you find number 4, racing driver Ed. So congratulations, Britain's first coins book, Brad Woolley. Cleaning pencil to Nick Evans and 5 Diggers Dips tokens to racing driver Ed. Thank you as ever to Diggers Dips and to the cleaning pencil company for providing the prizes and doing the draw. Basically, there's a number of products. The cleaning pencils, like, your old engineering pencils that you click, but it's got a composite nib in it. So basically, when you get a coin that's encrusted or an artifact, you can clean it off. There's different brushes, brass brushes, inserts that go into it, but there's also a range of products to be used for greater effect for cleaning a crystalline wax, which also preserves the artifact as well. There's a lot of museums picking up on these products as well. Fantastic.
You've got very close to saying it almost perverts the artifacts there, Dave.
It does pervert the artifact. There's been several coins with prostitution-y type things going on found that I've seen. Have you had one of them, Adrian?
It's got a very good shaft, the pencil.
Have you? I told you that it all ended in tears.
Oh, it's damn wrong.
Absolutely. So we've got about 12 minutes left of this show. A lot of people are asking. Obviously, myself and Adrian are interested. When do we know when the second season will be ready for airing?
Over to you.
It's been fraught with. We've done 4.5 episodes, and the last half episode for the final one with the 5th episode. Obviously, with the COVID pandemic, it's just really been difficult for us to go abroad and finish it off. So, and we just thought we had clarity this week to go somewhere, and then today the rules have changed again. So the thing is, the show is due to be broadcast in September, and we're just hoping that we'll get in a position to do the last bit of work and get it finished.
And another question asked, if at some point, say for instance, the History Channel decide to not produce the programme after the end of season 2, will you continue to do something not dissimilar privately or with another company where you can air more of the artifacts yourself and show people more leading up to obviously the exhibition that you want to put on?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's all sorts of things being talked around at the moment, not just the Templar hoard. I mean, we're looking at something in America at the moment, but like everything, it's just the timing is so difficult at the moment and it's out of our hands. We've got to wait for them to come to us, and even if we got a commission tomorrow, is it actually possible to do it with the circumstances as they are? Totally out of our hands. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be retiring and putting our feet up just for the moment.
We've got loads of potentially great projects. I mean, if one of them come off, we'll be as enthusiastic as we have been with the first series and the second. But something will come through, and we'll enjoy doing it.
I've got a video lined up to end the show in a wee while. It's the one where it's a bit of a tour around Hamilton's private collection, which is phenomenal. Really? And I've been invited down, if you remember, to come down when everything's back to normal, which I'm I can't wait. But you've also got another museum over in the Bahamas type areas, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a place over in Nassau, which is one of the oldest buildings in the Bahamas, which has got all my sort of, Caribbean-y, piratey, slavery, anything to do with the Caribbean-y type stuff in. There's about 14 rooms full of, I can't even remember what. I haven't been for about 3 or 4 years, but there's mountains of it, yeah. Heritage Museum of the Bahamas, if somebody wants to Google it.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm sure Luke will pull that up just for us to have a look at in a moment. But again, that makes me want to go to the Bahamas, and that's never going to happen. You see, one of my personal goals, I've got multiple Templar books here. Obviously, you know, your normal ones, the Michael Hogg, Juliet Wood, Evelyn Lord, Piers Paul, Reed, John Matthews. I've got all sorts of Templar books. And I spent a lot of time, before it was cool, I spent a lot of time at Roslin Chapel as well.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of the potential of the Holy Grail and the history of the Templars, the Templar Church in London was just out of this world. And if I ever get the point where I've got enough money to travel, I will travel throughout Europe, especially to all these Templar sites. It's a dream of mine, and you guys are living that dream for me. There you go. That's the Heritage Museum of the Bahamas.
Indeed, that's my little place over in the Bahamas. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Somewhere that you'll probably find some pictures of the inside if you click around. What's that? Pass. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's the recreation of a shop. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff in there. Oh, I don't know what
some
that
umbrellas.
Is. Yeah. Yeah, colonial. Oh, there we go. There's the recreation of the shop. That's part of the slavery and ethnic room. What's that? Colonial room by the looks of it. Yeah, there's plenty of it. I mean, I filled a 40-foot container to the point where you couldn't get a single piece of paper in it when I shipped it out there. There's an awful lot. I own too much. It's time for me to have a rationalise and a thin out. It really is.
Yeah, that looks.
You also do a great deal of art as well, Hamilton. I've seen you do a lot of paintings and such like as well.
Well, I play about with paint. I wouldn't say as far as I do art. I just sort of sit in my shed and relax and sit there drinking a bottle of wine, being creative is what I do. Don't confuse it with art.
That's perfect.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Don't muddle it up with art or anything like that. It's me messing about.
Well, there've been some good pieces anyway. There was a Pink Floyd one that I was very jealous that somebody got hold of.
Oh yeah, I've done quite a few Pink Floyd ones. Yeah, some bits of different stuff. It's just fun, you know. It's a relaxation to get away from the endless conveyor belt of junk that I seem to be stuck with for my entire life.
And Carl, your passion obviously is outside of your work, outside of your career, outside of the whole Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, is cars and motorbikes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the bad things for COVID was I've missed two Isle of Man Grand Prix and TTs last year and this year, which is a great thing because I go away with about 5 guys and we usually find a hotel to stay at. And it's just a magical place that if you're into life and, you know, risk and energy and, you know, excitement, the TT is the most magnificent. They're the true gladiators of today. You know, they're doing a 37-mile course and the mental brain transactions, there must be like 1,000 a second going on to make decisions. And within 1 second, you know, they can be doing three turns on a dangerous bend with dry-walled stone walls either side, and one little deviation, an incorrect thought, and you're dead. And the thing is, they don't do it for money, it's purely for glory.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there not 1 year, many years. You can go, it's very accessible, the TT and the Grand Prix. You can go in the pits and talk to the riders and the families, and they're usually a family deal with the mum and dad, the girlfriend, and in many cases, sometimes you get the dad still riding in the same race as the son.
Wow.
1 year it went and there was a race on, and the next thing the son hits a wall, gets outright completely killed, and the dad actually passed him, knew it was his son, and had to carry on with the race. And that's, and you think, you know, every time them boys go out on the track, the mother, the girlfriend, the dads, they're just praying that they'll come back. And quite frequently, you know, the fatalities are not low, unfortunately, and it happens. And yet people still go because it's a badge of honour. You know, when people say I've raced at the TT, they're serious guys. Them, you know, that's an amazing thing to do. And
I've been to the Isle of Man once, and we drove the course, and driving past a grandstand that's just there permanently, and I'm thinking about the speed that they go, and some of the corners and the roads. It's phenomenal. You can rank them people far higher than you can superbikes, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and you look at footballers and all that, and the money they get paid, and these guys do it. These guys are paid to do it.
Yeah,
that's how committed they are, and they literally put their life on the line. And it's just fantastic.
It puts Formula One to shame now. How Formula One was in the 50s and 60s, and now what it's like. It's, some say, boring. It isn't as exciting. But one thing I would say, with the event of television cameras and the cameras they have on the bikes now at the Isle of Man TV, you watch them on YouTube, and you just you think it's been fast forwarded, and the camera's like that close to the ground where they're leaning over.
Adrian, I've not done it myself, but a friend of mine's got one of them VR things, and he's done the TT on the VR. Imagine that.
It's brilliant. I love watching it on YouTube.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've missed that, and hopefully soon it'll all clear up, and I'll be getting out on the bike this week though, so that's nice.
Brilliant. Well, gents, is there anything else you want to add before we end?
Nothing really. Just thank you very much for it. Once again, thanks for that wonderful review you did. It was amazing, and thanks for inviting us on the show. It's great to meet both of you, and
thanks.
I look forward to seeing you at Hamilton's or my place sometime.
Yeah, so we meet up and, I don't know, perhaps do a live broadcast from somewhere or something. I don't know.
Imagine doing that from... Well, for those of you who haven't seen Hamilton's Museum, you will shortly. Imagine doing a live show from there.
Lord.
Crisps out of a chalice, Dave. Crisps out of a chalice and wine.
Wine out of the reliquary box. You had an artifact yesterday when I spoke to you, a bracelet, Andy.
Viking thing? Yeah, I've got several Viking things on my desk.
Look at this, Adrian. Be jealous.
What you got? There's a fabulous little Viking knife, but look at the shape of it. Hang on, where do I turn it? Oh, hang on, I'm not very good at this. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Fabulous. Look at the handle on that. It's like a little ship's prow of a dragon's head, just like the one in the BM. Beautiful little thing that is. Had that years. But no, that was what I was on yesterday. Hang on. Where have we gone? I've lost the camera. There we go. There's a nice little bit of Viking gold. Fabulous little one. Look at that. Ooh. I've got quite a lot of Viking stuff. I used to be into it in a big way, but I've thinned out. But, I've just kept one or two nice bits, really. That's a cracking little bracelet, that is. I like that. Really good.
Jealous much?
Yeah. God, dear. Wow. I'd just like to say thanks ever so much for Dave organising tonight and you two coming on the show, because you've got a great story and what your adventure, but more importantly, you're two nice guys who are lovely to chat with, and that is great, and I've really enjoyed it tonight. So thank you.
You're spoiling our image. No. We're horrible.
and make sure you do a live stream drinking wine out the chalice, because that'd be pretty good.
Adrian, I've actually invited you to the group. You weren't a member of the group, so you'll be able to follow all of their travels on the group that I mentioned earlier, the Lost Relic of the Knights Templar TV series for fans thing.
Thank you.
Jump on there to follow everything that goes on. Again, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you enough. Wish you all the luck with the second season, and obviously all the luck in any remaining artifacts that you are still to gather.
Okay. We'll try. Cool, guys.
Next week's show, we're not telling you what it is. Nobody knows but me and one other person, maybe two other people. So I'm not telling you what it is next week, but it's you'll see. We'll be back Thursday at 8 p.m. Thanks again to Carl. Thanks again to Hamilton, to Adrian, to all the viewers, and especially to Luke up in the air playing with buttons and doing things. So we'll see you all next week at 8 p.m. Thanks again. Luke, please roll VT. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Hamilton started buying and selling antiquities with his pocket money. In the past 40 years, he's amassed quite a collection.
This is allegedly where I work sometimes. You could call it the research and development facility, or alternatively, it's one of my sheds. That's my best pair of mammoth tusks. Those are quite interesting. Those were from when I used to go over to Russia bringing mammoth tusks back. They're about somewhere between 20 and 30,000 years old. That's a Tudor mallet. There's a few bits off the Mary Rose. That's one of my sword sticks I haven't fixed yet. That's a First War trench club. That's Marcus Aurelius. That's a bit of wartime Messerschmitt that was shot down.
In his inner sanctum, protected by a steel door, Hamilton keeps his most treasured items, including rare pieces of Celtic gold.
But just looking there, that's the thick end of £1 million worth of gold.
His collection also includes Nazi memorabilia and loot.
Right, I mean, if you've never seen proper bullion before, well, there you go, there's 50 Nazi bullion bars.
He's even kept the first thing he ever bought.
That, which is a desperately uninteresting little coin, really, of Edward I, was actually the first ancient thing I bought when I was about, God, I don't know, 8. That's how all of it started, and it's still sitting in the same little box that it sat in since I was 8 years old. It just naturally morphed into an obsession. I think it's genetic. I probably had whatever the OCD-ness that people like us have. It was there, I was born with it, and the older you get and the more money you have to spend or the more time you've got, it just becomes extreme.